Russian President Vladimir Putin has launched a major military operation against Ukraine.
Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, was targeted with missile fire before dawn on Friday.
So the atmosphere in the region before the war started, I'd say it was quite intense a few weeks prior to the major invasion on February 24th, 2022. That year, Vladimir Putin, for New Year's, he gave a speech, and I don't particularly remember what he said, but he started mentioning some military plans or something like that. And a lot of people in Ukraine started worrying. I remember just like both official and unofficial talks about that something might be going on and that something's coming, but a lot of people just didn't believe in anything and didn't care, I guess, as much. But then once the invasion started, everyone was like, oh yeah, I think I've heard that something. So the start was a bit weird because it was just a casual Thursday. I was getting ready for my studies. I was studying at medical university at the time, and February 24th, there were a lot of explosions in all of the major cities in Ukraine, and mine as well. And they started since like 4 or 5 a.m. and my whole family woke up because of them, but not me. And I just woke up at like 8 a.m. because of my alarm, because I needed to get ready for my university, and I was like, oh. And then I just started hearing like all of the devices in my apartment just blasting news, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And then my father just walks in the room saying, oh, we finally woke up. Well, the war started. I was like, what? So I started checking all the news. I didn't go to university that day, obviously. And yeah, it was shocking. I started texting all of my friends, all of my family, asking if they're okay or anything. And I just couldn't believe it in the beginning. So my experience when the war just started, like the early days, a lot of confusion. Nobody knew what to do next. And me and my family, we didn't leave our house for like 3 days straight. And I didn't lose anybody who was close to me. My closest friends and my closest family are still alive and in good health. They're doing great. But I just kept hearing people joining the military, and like friends of my friends who were struggling, or just like people who I knew somebody who was struggling too. It was just like the stories of people who are indirectly connected to me. And it was quite weird. The experience of my friends and my family, like the practical experiences, yeah, that definitely was harsh. Because, the first day, once I just woke up, my father told me that the war started. He told me to go to grocery store and buy some necessities. I went to the pharmacies and bought a lot of medications, pills, just in case. We just bought a whole bunch of stuff and didn't leave the house for a few days. And people were going to grocery stores like crazy, because everyone was thinking that like nobody knew what's gonna happen next, right? And people started getting supplies of water, tried to buy generators for electricity and whatever. And first 2 days of war, there was huge traffic because everyone was trying to leave. My city is like 1 million people city, and for the 3rd or 4th day of war, it was almost like a ghost town. A lot of people just left. A lot of people went back already, but yeah, it just felt super empty.
As the war goes on, the refugee crisis is growing. The UN estimates roughly 10 million people are either displaced inside Ukraine or have fled to other countries.
Well, me and my sister left Ukraine on the 4th day of war, and before that, I was just 17, right? So I was not eligible for military service, yeah. for military service, but I was considering joining some like volunteer-based groups who were protecting Ukraine. Like there were a bunch of departments formed that were outside of official military services. There were just people coming together and protecting their land. I was thinking about that, but then my sister was not doing great mentally and emotionally. It was extremely hard for her, so our parents tried their best to let us escape. So on the 4th day of war, me and my sister went to Germany because our grandfather lives there. So we lived with him for a bit, and in the beginning, I needed to take care of my sister, so that's what kept me going in the beginning. And as for now, I'm already in my 2nd year in Canada College, and I just keep studying, and I want to start a new life here. And I just want to show my parents that everything they did to me was not just a waste of their time and energy, that it actually means a lot to me, like all the sacrifices they made for me. So I just want to make it count. So initial reaction of the community was, everyone was shocked, clearly. I know some politicians, some people in higher ranks, they kind of saw that coming. There were talks about something happening, but middle class people, they didn't know about anything. So in the beginning, people started going crazy, buying all of the necessities, thinking of what's gonna be next. But in a matter of hours, people started creating these volunteer groups that were helping all the injured, that were getting access to weapons and protecting the lands themselves until the army was built properly. People started fighting right away. There were multiple stories of just civilians protecting their homes when Russians were invading them. And that's why Ukraine is still standing, right? Because Putin's initial plan was to occupy Ukraine in hours, then it was days, then weeks, then months, and now the conflict is going for over 2 years. And that's all because people started fighting right away.
We are in a queue where people are waiting to get their weapons to fight the Russian invaders.
Well, a lot of those stories were in the news in the first days of war. For example, in one small village, Russians came there to occupy the houses and to kill people and whatever. And one of the grandmothers, she was living there by herself. So she invited the soldiers to her house. She suggested them some tea, and she mixed some medication for your stomach in the tea. So they all needed to go to the washroom all at the same time. And as it's a small village, the washroom, like all of the necessities are outside of the house. So they all went there, and she burned them alive while they were all in there. It's quite brutal, quite violent, but that's how people were protecting themselves. Another story, another elderly lady, she saw a drone of Russian military flying next to her windows, so she threw a jar of pickles in it, and she basically demolished the drone. Yeah, then another story of there was like a gang of hooligans, I guess, just like punks, like poor people, almost homeless, and they just saw a Russian military tank coming to their place, like to their area, so they basically just stole it. They, I don't know what they did to the soldiers, but they stole it and gave it to Ukrainian army. So, yeah, like stories like that. And there are millions of stories like that. People were just fighting constantly. As for my final say, я хочу сказати, що Ми сильні, ми з усім впораємося, і все буде Україна. Слава Україні!